Now, our guest tonight, Amythyst Raine, she shares a very personal relationship with the cards, and she's not attached to any traditional path. Amythyst Raine has been in the trenches, and she teaches you to really see the cards as an experience as a whole, not as a grueling memorization project that you'll inevitably get frustrated with and drop at the next opportunity. Instead, Amythyst explains how she learned to view the cards and waste no time doing it. Her descriptions of the cards and the relationships to one another and the querent are spicy and full of intelligence. This is definitely this book that she's written, and her philosophy is for adults. Make no mistake. So we might have to do some bleeping out, but it's an excellent way to gain a different perspective on tarot and the puzzle pieces that make up this art. Amythyst Raine is a professional psychic and spiritual feminist. She has practiced her own brand of paganism for the past 30 years and is a high priestess of the Bristolwicks Coven. Amythyst is also a practitioner of holistic healing through Reiki, crystal therapy, and chakra balance. For more information on Amythyst, you can visit her website at www.ladyamethyst, and that's amythyst.webs.com. Hello, and merry meet, Amythyst.
Fresh, and I'll give you a reading because I just couldn't do it. And there's nothing wrong with that, but people seem to expect psychics or tarot readers, they expect you to be super fantastic and everything to be over the top every time. And that's not the way this works.
You can have your bad days. You can have your off days.
You can have your people you just can't click with or you can't connect with. I also won't read for people close to me. I won't read for my children, and I won't read for my spouse. It's too close. I think I give my best readings with total strangers, people that you know nothing about.
Well, I have to admit I do read for my husband because he begs me to. And then when I tell him something, because he's in Aries, he likes to say, oh, that's never going to happen. And then when it happens. Oh, gosh. So let me ask you, so the tarot, we know that giving the readings is a healing experience, and, it can really move a person forward, and, giving them the information, laying it all out before them so they can see it and they can deal with it. But can you explain some of the ways you feel that other ways that tarot can heal people? Because you are a healer.
I don't know if you have noticed, but I practice witchcraft, and I practice a combination of Wicca and hoodoo and green witchcraft, and I use tarot cards in mojo bags. I use tarot cards in mojo bags for healings, for love magics, and that type of thing.
You put the cards in there, or how do you do that?
Yeah, I will put cards in there. I have decks that I just buy just for that purpose. So in case I destroy the cards in the process, like candle magic, burn them in a candle. But there are lots of ways that I use the energy of those cards in my own spiritual practices. And I don't know if I've run into anyone else who's done that or not, but in both of my books, in both of my tarot books, I have spells in the back and mojo bags for energy and connection with herbs.
That's very interesting. Now, what about with Reiki? I mean, I know as a Reiki master myself, I know that you can put Reiki into anything. Do you ever put Reiki into a reading that you're giving somebody, or Reiki into a card if you're working, like if somebody asks you to, for example, with the Reiki distance healing or something, do you ever combine the card with a Reiki healing?
No, I haven't. That's an interesting concept, but I haven't never done that personally. But I would imagine that you could do incredible things through that energy with the card, because I believe the cards themselves have energy, but I don't want to put so much importance on the cards that I give them power, because the power is not in the card. It's in the mind.
No, it's in the symbolism of the card.
Right. The symbolism and the mind of the person who's using them. But yes, I believe that you can connect with Reiki on many levels that way with the cards. And as far as readings go, sometimes readings turn into therapy sessions, actually. where once you've read for someone and you get this information out there and you get them the possibilities for the future, it's like something in them, like a dam burst, and they just suddenly will start talking, or they'll start crying, or they'll pour their heart out to you, and just, and it's kind of like a cleansing. And it's therapeutic. And by the time you're done, I think that it has oftentimes started a healing process within each client. If you run into someone who has issues, that would bring those emotions.
So it's unlocked a lot of things too.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you feel about, when we're giving the readings and we're giving the positive information, we're giving the negative information, how do you feel as a straightforward reader that you need to present some of the negative stuff that comes up in a reading?
And, the most trouble that I have are with women in love. Women will have a tendency to stay in very destructive and potentially dangerous relationships because they simply cannot make that disconnect. It seems as though females can make tremendously strong bonds to their spouses, and even under the worst circumstances, they still cling to that individual. So that's the hardest part I have, is getting through to people who are in really bad relationships that this isn't good for you, because a lot of times obsessiveness comes into play in those circumstances.
So how do you personally use the tarot cards in your everyday life? I mean, do you ever do a spread for yourself? I know you say you don't read for yourself, but do you ever pick a card or something like that?
I do. I keep a tarot journal, actually.
Perfect. I love to hear that. Tell us about your tarot journal.
How
you do it.
Near my bed, and like in the mornings or when I'm alone, I will pull a card for the day and I'll jot down thoughts that come to me according to that card. Or I like to do cards by threes, and I just keep track, like a diary, for each day, which cards you draw and what sorts of events that pop into your head, or what sort of energy. And it's so right. And so often the thing is that it doesn't give you, or my brain anyway, doesn't give me little tiny, very specific particulars. I mean, like on a day I get cards that tell me like the shit's going to hit the fan. It's just something is really going to be total off. But I won't know what. But when it happens, and it will, then I say, aha, it was this. But I'm probably just not gifted enough to be able to pinpoint all that. It's just that I can see something coming, and I know it's coming, and I don't know precisely what until it hits. But at least I feel that I'm prepared for it.
So it's like a dream diary, but a tarot diary.
Oh, I keep a dream journal too. That is fascinating. Yes. It is, because if you've kept it long enough and you go past, like over the past year of your life, and you read your dreams, you can see where all of your concerns lay. You can see kind of how your life was being affected by certain people or circumstances. You can even see how things that happened in your childhood might still pop into your head and be rustling around in there and stirring things up. It's really fascinating. But the trick is that everyone forgets their dreams, at least everyone I know. They forget their dreams so easily when you wake up in the morning that you have to keep that pad and pen like right by the bed. And yes, don't say good morning to anyone. Just roll over.
Immediately just write. Huh?
Yeah, start writing before that disappears, because it will disappear and it's really hard to remember.
That is very interesting. Talking about dreams, I dream a lot about horses that I've had that have passed over, and then all of a sudden they're in my dreams again, and they're I'm doing something with them, and that happens a lot. That happened to me last night, as a matter of fact. I think when that happens, they actually come back like a spirit.
Oh, Absolutely. There are dreams where you make connections with people who've passed. There's dreams that you have that are prophetic and they let you know something's coming. Then there are just those crazy little dreams that rifle through those files in our head and pick out all kinds of things. But there definitely are dreams where there's past life dreams too. I've had a past life dream where it's just, you know, when you've had a dream, when it's not a normal dream, when there's more to it, you will know it. I don't really know how to explain it. You'll know it, but you'll know it, and you won't forget this one. It will stick with you, and it will stick with you for a long time.
And speaking of dreams and the dream state and connecting on the superconscious level, I don't know if it's your philosophy, but it is the philosophy of a lot of people who teach tarot or ascribe to the tarot. It's like when you first get your first deck of tarot cards, you put it under your pillow so that you can dream with your cards. Have you ever done that, or do you feel that that's helpful?
No, I haven't. As I said, I view the cards more as a tool. I have a very realistic view. Maybe maybe that's not the right word. The only thing I do with my cards that might be unusual is that I will lay crystals on top of my decks. When I have decks laid out in my shelf, I always have clear quartz crystals laid on top of them. But I've never
why
slept
is that?
with
To enhance it or to bring in
yeah,
communication? Because I know that crystals are receptors.
They are receptors, and they're energy generators. And yes, just to draw in energy for the cards, which will in turn should draw in energy to me so that I can interpret the cards.
Okay. And what do you feel is some of the, and we talked a little about dreams and so forth, and tell us what you feel are some of the astrological and the colorology and the numerology that's intertwined in the tarot.
Mm-hmm. Well, the cards are numbered, and as every number is significant, like 4 is foundations. I had a deck of cards today, and I'm shuffling them, and the 4 of Wands flew out. And I always feel that if a card flies out of the deck, there's a reason for it. And so you set it aside, and I turned it over, and it was the 4 of Wands. Mm-hmm. And 4 of Wands is number 4 to me means solid foundations, setting a structure in place that's going to last. And I don't necessarily mean a material structure, but something figurative. Also, this card was especially attuned to me because I'm engaged. So we're planning a wedding, and it's a celebratory card. And it often comes up in my readings for weddings. And the number 4 is perfect for that card, because what more important aspect of your life do you need to have those strong foundations for is the relationship you're going to have with your mate for the rest of your life. So the numbers on the tarot cards are important, and I like to go through and be familiar with that and connect with that too. As far as astrology goes, I know there's astrological symbolism for all of the cards, but the ones that hit me most are the court cards, because they are people, and the people that I know, and the archetypes on the cards, and the astrological signs associated to them. It gives you a wide range of perception into other people's personalities, and I find this fascinating. And there's always like positive and negative aspects. So when you're reading for someone and a court card comes up, and I'll say, you might know this person on this card, and I'm going to tell you what their personality is like, and you tell me, if this connects with you. And they're always kind of floored at the opposite aspects of it, because I don't know, are we trained to focus on the good side? But you have to look at people. People have a little bit of each in them. We're a little bit black and white, and with shades of gray in between. But that's how I view the astrology. That's where it seems to have the most impact for me, is with the court cards.
And what do you feel is the key to the tarot reading? Do you view the suits as a key? Like when you put down your spreads, what do you view as the key to that reading right away?
The suits do provide a clue to me. Lots of cups will mean that there's emotional issues or relationship issues. Wands or pentacles will be finances or business or money. Swords will be a conflict, a person with a lot of contention and unpleasantness in their life. So the suits do cue you into what aspects of the person's life you should focus on and where those problems might be.
Now, I know there's a couple different schools of thought, but do you read your cards when they're upside down, or do you read them all upright?
I do read reversals, and usually it will have the opposite meaning or generalization of the upright card. But there's another way that I look at it, because I look at the card visually and just let it tap into my subconscious. Sometimes when those images are upside down, you'll see things that you wouldn't otherwise have seen.
I like that. I like that, because the reason why I brought that up is because in the tarot books, it's always, if they're reversed, it's always bad,
Oh,
And
no.
so people get a preconceived idea that if they see the card reversed, automatically it's bad.
Oh, no. It just gives you a different vision of the images, and it's something new that can come to you. It's not bad at all, necessarily. It gives you a different perception, is all that it is.
You touched a little bit about like Wicca and witchcraft and natural magic and paganism and stuff, and a little bit about, I know that a lot of people who are into, are on the pagan path, do read, and tarot is like, I'm pagan myself, and we consider it to be our Bible, because we consider that those things that are contained within the tarot cards is kind of, a collective symbolism of the ages. Would you agree with that philosophy?
I would agree. It's a symbolism of humanity. That's why the court cards and the personality types, the archetypes. Another thing interesting about the court cards is that they are also like psychological profiles, though, too. And sometimes when you meet a person, sometimes when I meet them, actually, there'll be a card that pops into my head. And I always kind of pay attention to what it is, because it's like giving me little cues to their personality. This doesn't always happen, but when it does, I pay attention to it.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. You're going to pause for 1 minute for a commercial.
Okay.
A new era in psychic services has begun. PsychicAccess.com. You can connect with our psychic advisors by telephone or chat 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All of our psychic advisors are interviewed, fully verified, and accuracy tested, assuring you quality service. We're living in some very troubled times right now. More and more, the world's problems are affecting us on a personal level. You don't have to deal with this alone. Our highly accurate psychics, caring advisors, and talented mediums can help with situations you are currently experiencing and can let you know what the future may hold for you. All new customers get a free 6-minute reading. All you have to do is register. Why not visit us now and get a free reading at PsychicAccess.com.
You were just saying, how many decks do you have, Amythyst?
I have over 40 tarot decks. I always say they're like earrings. You can never have too many.
Oh, you can't. And there's so many fascinating ones out there too, huh?
Oh, I know. The artwork and sometimes, like, there was one that had the Wizard of Oz and the characters on it. Yeah. And yeah, there's a lot of interesting things. There's one that's geared like to the artwork is 1950s, like 1950s housewife. And,
you're kidding! I want that one.
You want that one? You have to email me, and I'll give you the link to it. I'm sure they have it at Amazon.
Have you seen the Halloween deck? That's all Halloween characters.
I have a couple of Halloween decks. I have the Witch's Tarot, and I have a Halloween deck.
Oh, that's really, those are really cute. Yeah. I love the Egyptian ones. I sort of collect Egyptian ones. I have a lot of them. So,
Yeah. Some that are collectible, I keep them in the box and don't use them, and others are like everyday out on the table cards, and then others I have that are used for other purposes if I'm making mojo bags, doing that
is it,
sort of thing.
what would you recommend if just somebody who knows nothing about the tarot and would like to learn, which deck would you recommend that they get?
I would start with the Universal Rider White, a very basic deck where your court cards are your Queen, King, Knight, Page, and just save the other decks that kind of go outside the box. Save that for after your first introduction, and just go with a very basic deck. That would be my advice.
So you get all the original, because it depicts all the original symbolism.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you should become familiar with that before you do some of these real unusual decks and try to use them for readings.
Right.
Here.
Now, the major arcana and the minor arcana, want to explain that to our audience?
The major arcana are things that are going to happen in your life that you have no control over. It's kind of a big picture. The minor arcana are the little minute details, the things that you have the possibility of changing depending on your decisions. And your future totally relies on your own personal decisions and choices. The cards aren't going to set that for you. They just show you what might be. Everyone's responsible for their own lives and their own choices.
I heard it once said that the major arcana was the law and that the minor was the carrying out of the law. It's probably a very archaic thought, but it kind of makes sense the way you explain it. You know, and the origins of some of the major arcana. Do you have any insight into some of the origins of some of those cards?
No, I don't. Only that it said that they were ancient cards from Egypt originally, but then it's also said that they were used in Italy as playing cards at one time until they started to be used for divination.
Those damn Italians, I'm telling you.
I know. Got their fingers and everything, don't they?
Oh, they do. They do.
Can't take your eyes off of them for a minute.
What now? I know you can't keep your eye. Yeah, you got to watch those Italians. So, when you're reading for somebody that you completely like, do you ever do phone readings, or it's all in person for you?
Yes, I do. No, I do readings over the telephone. I like to do handwritten readings that I email to people, and a lot of people
now that's interesting.
For that
Why
kind
do
of
you
reading
like
that you couldn't connect. But that's the easiest way for me to connect because it's quiet. I'm by myself, and it's just an open channel for me with the cards. And you can read for people long distance. You can read for people you don't know. You can read for people that you can't see and you don't even know what they look like. It's got nothing to do with any of that. It's all that universal knowledge and being able to tap into it with your subconscious and using the cards as a trigger. And that's all that it is. And a lot of time the handwritten readings are the ones that are most point on.
That's interesting that you brought that up because a lot of times our clients ask us, they're skeptical at some point.
Oh, no, I tell them
you don't know, you've never met me, or how do you know this stuff from a long distance? But they're not understanding just what you said.
No, I know, they do that. I try to explain to them that it's like a type of automatic writing. And that's what it is. As I'm turning cards and interpreting, I have a pen in one hand and my notebook, and I'm just turning cards and just writing down whatever is popping in. And then I'll put the reading together, and make it readable. But at first, it's just like automatic writing. And
so
that's
just
how
like words and images and stuff like that, and then you fill it in?
Images and ideas, yes.
Interesting. That's really interesting. So, Now, has there been anybody else in your family that reads the tarot or does any psychic work, or are you the only one?
No, I am the only one. I have 7 children, and
You have 7 children?
yes, I have
Wow.
7
Good for
children.
you.
And they each kind of have their own interests. They each have their own spiritual paths. I have a couple of my girls who are interested in tarot cards and they collect them, but they don't do readings for people. It's, it's a very diverse group that I have. So.
I think that to be a reader and to be a psychic, it's like you're drawn to it and it just never leaves you. Don't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely, it is. And I think for a lot of us, it starts in childhood with things that we don't understand, things that we see or things that we just know or feel, and we don't understand it till we get older. And by the time we're older, we shut it off because it's not acceptable in our society or our culture. So it's like people who can open back up to it after you've learned what it is and that it's okay and that it's not harmful, it's actually helpful. So yeah.
So in your book, Tarot for Grownups, what type of information do you believe that you put out there that would make it just for grownups? Is it more mature subjects or is it, tell us a little bit about that.
It is. I used and wrote that book from an adult perspective, dealing with adult issues. I was tired of these books for little kids, or for teenagers to sit down and go through the cards. It's as though it was time for the cards to be used at an adult level. And sometimes the adult world isn't always very pretty, and it can be kind of rough, and it can be kind of hard to look at things in a harsh manner. And that's how I use the cards for that book, and with that intention, so adults can connect with it, because our issues are more nitty gritty sometimes. And I didn't see any books out there that dealt with those, with infidelity and with marriage and with issues with family and with sexual issues, and so that's kind of what I do in this book.
That's interesting. So, for example, like what would be one of your, like, give us a peek, what would, like a chapter, is it related to a card, or how did you set it up?
I actually looked at the cards as different groups. Like, instead of, every book starts with like the suits or the minor arcana and everything in order. I didn't want to look at it in order because my life is not in order and most people's aren't.
Really? When's your birthday?
Yeah. So I took love and relationships, and I went through the deck and I pulled out every card that for me has some sort of connection with love and relationships. And then I looked at that card and I wrote down how I really felt about it without trying to whitewash it and without trying to keep myself from, what's the word I want? To keep myself from being so that I wouldn't make someone angry or offend someone. I just wrote down just whatever the hell I wanted that was my interpretation of the card. And I stopped thinking about what other people would think if they read it. So, and that's what I did with different sections of the cards, like for money or for employment, for family relationships. And then actually after the book came out and I read it, I thought, oh my God, I can't believe I said some of that. But
that's a very interesting approach, because that's really off the cuff. That's almost like you're writing and you're reading at the same time.
That's true. That's true. And I think it's different from any of the other books out there that I've read, because they all seem to follow the same pattern. And I didn't want to follow that pattern because life is helter-skelter and kind of it's just
messy.
not neat and tidy, and it doesn't fit in boxes. And that's how I wanted to look at the cards.
That's interesting. So it was almost a channeling through the tarot in a way.
Yes, it was. It was very cathartic too, because there's a lot more in there if you read my interpretations of them that have to do with my life and what we were going through at that time than what you would probably think. So it was a cool experience, actually, for myself in writing it.
I think that us as psychics and readers, and I think I could speak for all my co-hosts as well, that when we are going through a specific issue in our lives, we tend to draw people to us that are going through the same thing, and so we end up seeing a better perspective of that. Don't you agree?
Absolutely. We draw to us. I always believe that people come into our lives in different times and different phases because we're meant to be with them for a particular reason, to learn from them or to grow with them. Mm-hmm. And there's reasons that people come together. And yes. Yeah, there are. It makes an impact.
I have a lot of comments on the chat with my co-hosts about your birds. Do you have birds? I can hear them in the background.
I'm sitting outside on my back porch, actually.
How nice is that?
Apple trees, maple trees, and yeah. So you can hear the birds.
I know. I think it's very refreshing. It's awesome. It's a nice, especially since we're talking about the tarot, which is life itself.
Absolutely.
And so, do you plan another book on the tarot, or is this it for your tarot books?
Well, no, I'd never say never. I learned that. I am working on a 5th book. It actually has to do with feminine spirituality, and so I want to try to get that book done by the beginning of next year if I can. And my life is kind of like. My life is kind of crazy right now, so it's very hard for me to concentrate on writing because I'm going to be getting married at some point.
Yay! Well, congratulations.
Yay, you're welcome. And so my focus it's very hard to focus at all right now, actually. My main focus is the man in my life right now. Isn't that?
Well, I like to hear that because it's important for us to have our soulmates, and they come to us at different times in our lives. And it feels to me, I'm just picking it out of the universe, that he probably is your soulmate, or at least one of them.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Totally different to be at my age and to be in a relationship at this stage of life and to meet someone that you feel so connected with. It's a connection you can't explain. I've never experienced this with anyone else.
Well, everybody's timing is different, right?
Everybody's timing is
mentioned,
different.
I know that the audience and the people who are listening, they're going to look up your information. And you had mentioned that you were entering into your crone stage, and I can relate because so am I. And that's the wisdom stage for women, correct?
Yes, it is. I'm 55.
Very special.
So it is. I love this stage of life, actually, because you can kind of, like you're standing on a mountain in a midway point, and you can look back and you can look forward. And I think this is the perfect time to connect with someone that is your soulmate, someone that you can kind of hold hands with them at this stage of life and move forward into the last phase. And I believe that I'm meant to be with this person in the last phase of my life. So it's kind of like a milestone. And this phase of life for women is so cool. It's like we come into our own. Women bloom after menopause. No woman should ever be afraid of reaching this stage of life, because this is what you've worked for your whole life to get to this point. And it just keeps getting better and better.
So no more whining over hot flashes, right?
Oh, no.
Well, I'm going to have to remember that because I'm almost there myself.
Life is good.
Yeah. So we talked about using the tarot in everyday life, and, some of the lessons that the tarot have for us. And, if you were to pick a tarot card that was kind of a good tarot, you wanted to, one of your favorite, let's pick a major arcana. Let's talk a little bit about the major arcana a little bit. What are some of the cards there? Let's pick a few here, like the Sun card. That's probably the most powerful one in the deck, do you think, as far as positive energy?
Like positive energy. It's happy. It negates anything negative in a reading. It's kind of a joyful card that lets you see you can make it through the storm. It's like the light at the end of the tunnel. It's kind of that kind of card. And you can't ignore it. It's kind of like a spaniel dog that just comes out and it just leaps all over you. And so it's a little strong for some people, actually. They can't take all that glowy happiness. You have to tone it down for them. But that's how that card strikes me.
And then the most controversial of all the cards is the death card. People always get freaked out when they see the death card in their spread. Can you kind of explain the death card?
I have seen death in readings, but it's been through a combination of cards, not a single card. And most of the time, the death card has nothing to do with death. It has to do with amazing, huge transitions in your life. Huge transitional changes that'll just come up and smack you in the face. You can't ignore them. It's like milestones. It's like this person is going to reach a milestone, and there's just going to be a 180-degree shift in their life. And that's what that card generally means when it comes up in my readings. But I have gotten that card in conjunction with the Ten of Swords and the Tower. And usually when those three cards come up, it points to a death.
A physical death.
I've never a physical death. But I have never pointed that out to anyone. I think in my book, I relate an incident that I had with a friend that I read for, and those cards came up, and she was a reader too, and she knew, and we looked at each other, and we knew, and we said a name together. And about 5 months later, a very young member of her family was killed in a car train accident, and it was the person whose name we had said together. So, death shows up in tarot cards, but very, very seldom, and it's not something that I want to divulge to people.
Right. You have to counsel people in a certain way, which then they can be prepared. Mm-hmm. Now, what about the Lover's card? Now, there's misconceptions about the Lover's card.
God, I love that card. It's like, did you read in the book how I described that card? Because I don't think I can say it.
Is it a bleep bleep?
It's a bleep bleep. It's a
okay. Well, try it. Let's give us the the G-rated version.
I just call it the I can't keep my hands off you. F me again card. It's like that crazy intense energy in new relationships when you can't touch enough and you can't kiss enough and you can't have enough sex. If you could devour that person, you would devour them. It's that kind of crazy hot energy that comes through.
But not necessarily love, though. More lust, right?
It's lust. It's good old-fashioned rolling in the hay sex. Yes.
On that note, Amythyst, I would love to be able to talk to you for longer, like hours. I'm sure we could converse, but we're at the end of our interview right now. I really want to thank you. I mean, I have a lot of respect for your knowledge.
Well, thank you for having me. This has been fun, and I've enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah. So you know what? I want to wish you a good night and blessed be.
A blessed be to you, Brenda.
Hello, my name is Res Miranda. If you're having relationship, career, or life issues, I'm inviting you to experience what it's like to have access to professional, highly accurate psychics and spiritual advisors you can trust to care and help you. Register now to get your free 6-minute reading by telephone or chat. Get answers, get access, psychic access, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. PsychicAccess.com.
There are other ways that tarot can heal people? Because you are a healer.
I don't know if you have noticed, but I practice witchcraft, and I practice a combination of Wicca and Hoodoo and green witchcraft, and I use tarot cards in mojo bags. I use tarot cards in mojo bags for healings, for love magics, and that type of thing.
Do you put the cards in there, or how do you do that?
Yeah, I will put cards in there. I have decks that I just buy just for that purpose. So in case I destroy the cards in the process, like candle magic, burn them in a candle. But there are lots of ways that I use the energy of those cards in my own spiritual practices. And I don't know if I've run into anyone else who's done that or not, but in both of my books, in both of my tarot books, I have spells.
Now, our guest tonight, Amythyst Raine, she shares a very personal relationship with the cards, and she's not attached to any traditional path. Amythyst Raine has been in the trenches, and she teaches you to really see the cards as an experience as a whole. Not as a grueling memorization project that you'll inevitably get frustrated with and drop at the next opportunity. Instead, Amythyst explains how she learned to view the cards and waste no time doing it. Her descriptions of the cards and the relationships to one another and the querent are spicy and full of intelligence. This is definitely this book that she's written, and her philosophy is for adults, make no mistake. So we might have to do some bleeping out, but it's an excellent way to gain a different perspective on tarot and the puzzle pieces that make up this art. Amythyst Raine is a professional psychic and spiritual feminist. She has practiced her own brand of paganism for the past 30 years and is a high priestess of the Bristolwicks Coven. Amythyst is also a practitioner of holistic healing through Reiki, crystal therapy, and chakra balance. For more information on Amythyst, you can visit her website at www.ladyamethyst, and that's amythyst.webs.com. Hello, and merry meet, Amythyst.
Fresh, and I'll give you a reading because I just couldn't do it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But people seem to expect psychics or tarot readers, they expect you to be super fantastic and everything to be over the top every time. And that's not the way this works.
You can have your bad days. You can have your
in the back and mojo bags for energy and connection with herbs.
That's very interesting. Now, what about with Reiki? I mean, I know as a Reiki master myself, I know that you can put Reiki into anything. Do you ever put Reiki into a reading that you're giving somebody, or Reiki into a card if you're working, like if somebody asks you to, for example, with the Reiki distance healing or something, do you ever combine the card with a Reiki healing?
No, I haven't. That's an interesting concept, but I haven't never done that personally. But I would imagine you could do incredible things through that energy with the card, because I believe the cards themselves have energy, but I don't want to put so much importance on the cards that I give them power, because the power is not in the card. It's in the mind.
No, it's in the symbolism of the card.
Right. The symbolism and the mind of the person who's using it.
Off days.
You can have your people you just can't click with or you can't connect with. I also won't read for people close to me. I won't read for my children, and I won't read for my spouse. It's too close. I think I give my best readings with total strangers, people that you know nothing about.
Well, I have to admit, I do read for my husband because he begs me to. And then when I tell him something, because he's in Aries, he likes to say, "Oh, that's never going to happen." And then when it happens, oh gosh. So let me ask you, so the tarot, we know that giving the readings is a healing experience, and it can really move a person forward, and giving them the information, laying it all out before them so they can see it and they can deal with it. But can you explain some of the ways you feel that